Alright, in this video I want to discuss the idea of kind of tolerances, sensitivity, and conditions of reality. Alright, so how I'm going to start this off is saying that, life is full of stimulation, and through our experiences that we have throughout the moment of now, we gather wisdom and kind of an intuitive response to that particular experience. And we put things in categories as humans so that in order for us to kind of gather information so that we can learn some kind of foundational aspects so we can have new experiences. In my opinion, I feel like humans have two main ways of handling stimulation, and we try to find a equilibrium in between the two. And those two states are a state of curiosity, a state of excitement, or a state of apathy, or a state of detachment and disinterest. And I believe that throughout our experiences and throughout our kind of our wisdom and how it grows and our tolerance to things, that we try to find a way to remain curious but also not be super interested, and have some apathy for ourselves and for certain things in life, so we can find a subjective way to kind of grow in our own pattern. And if we didn't condition ourselves through our environment, then we would continuously remain in a state of awe, but we would lack integrity to manifest new experiences and new opportunities. If we remained apathetic all the time, we would shut ourselves out from the grand potential for change and movement, and we would lack excitement and passion. We would become desensitized and numb to the stimulation, and in that motion we would also breed expectations of our environment, and through expectations we inevitably will lead to the potential for contradiction. And I wrote several things here, but I just want to kind of go over some definitions of things and kind of how they all relate to each other. Alright, so desensitization is like a diminished emotional response to stimulation after repeated exposure. It's kind of a numb and anesthesia type feeling, kind of like you lack interest in what you're doing because you feel as if you already know what you're doing. And I want to kind of rebound before I start going over more. I want to rebound and go to here is kind of, I'm going to paint a picture or a graph or whatever. Here's an infant and here's an elder, right? So your infantiles and your newborns, they lack responsibility other than to take care of their subjective environment, and they only know like how to process things physically, but they don't really have an ingrained, conditioned, responsibility to influence their environment. So they're kind of just appreciating at exponential rates because they lack responsibility. So as you get to adulthood and as you get more mature, or as you reach the equilibrium of life, whatever you want to call it, you probably will have the most responsibility. Well, it's all subjective, but I'm just kind of using generalizations to talk about something. But as you reach adulthood and as you reach that equilibrium, you will probably maintain the most active responsibility, especially within your environment. And so this is when we really become bored and desensitized, because we kind of lack curiosity to, experience new things, because we have so much responsibility to maintain the things that we are expected to. And as the tale of life kind of diminishes towards death, and if that's the way, if you die from, old age, as we become more elderly and we lack, energy and integrity a lot of times, because we are kind of in our own little bubble. A lot of things are so far out of our, our state of normalcy, that we are kind of in our own little world almost at this point in our life. An elder is very similar to an infant in the way that society treats them. And I feel like, so as you reach that tale of life, you lack responsibility once again, which kind of emboldens the state of curiosity. And, when we're adults, we have conditional responses. So we kind of have so expectation is the root of all frustration. But in order to have integrity, and in order to, live within this life and in this state, we have to have some sort of kind of foundational expectations of ourselves and of our environment. So here's a good example that I like to refer to is, because a lot of people think that expectations, even though they're the root of all frustration and contradiction or whatever, that they think that, expectations have no positive, benefits, but as above, so below, there's always something to kind of, recuperate and rebound that attention. And like we have, a good metaphor back to it is kind of like before you are born and before you are, really manifested, like in your developing in the womb physically, your body has all these expectations of its environment. So your lungs expect oxygen to be in the air. Your bones expect, pressure and density to kind of, put, attention on certain parts of you that will need a more foundation. Your eyes are, foundationally conditioned to, expect this frequency, this, so we can pick up on our environment visually. Our ears expect sound, yada, 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 and it's kind of reasonable as you extend that into life to kind of see where those foundational expectations really benefit us. So, for example, I really can't prove to myself or to anybody else that I will be here tomorrow and that I'll survive the night and I will, wake up in the morning, or that the fucking sun's gonna come up in the morning, or that, that this is gonna happen tomorrow, or blah, 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 blah. Because in reality, tomorrow is kind of an illusion, but more or less we have to, understand the possibility for that illusion to become real. And, it's really helpful, if we lived in a constant curiosity at all times and lacked any standards and lacked any tolerance to things, then everything that we did and everything that we consumed, or every new experience that we had would be, extreme excitement and inquisitiveness and interest, and it would also blind us from some more, more relevant issues and subjective interest, because we'd be so, you'd walk around, if you lived in a constant state of curiosity and you went to the beach, you'd be fucked. because you'd walk around the beach and every little grain of sand would be like every star in the sky, and you'd want to look at everything constantly, and nothing would have any, hierarchies. There wouldn't be any hierarchies of, your own subjective interpretation and what you think is relevant, and not just relevant, but what you think is, true to you. But in contrast, it's like a constant sense of wonder, and that's very beneficial to have. But here's your wonder, and here's your monotony, your apathy, and I think that they're both equally divine, because in order to see, kind of where you integrate within the now, you kind of have to, be a little bored of what has already been done, but also remain curious of what has potential to change, so that you can actually find a way to harmonize with, where you want to apply your pressure. And I think it's an important, topic, because I think a lot of people ride the polars of this one in particular, and they either want to be super sensitive or they want to be desensitized. And I think in reality it's kind of finding that subjective tune and tone to, understand when your energy and when your application of, interpretation, and when your relevance of yourself is actually worth bringing into the equation. Because sometimes it's good to be tolerant to something, so it's not so captivating and stimulating and yada yada yada, and impressionable. But either way, it's a good time. It's your expectations of your life are kind of like your sense of trust for yourself through your own experiences, and it's very important to trust yourself, but at the same time always have the foundation that you are a fool and that you truly don't know, but you're on the pursuit of knowledge, and you are learning, and you are thinking, and you are trying to know. But here's the divine as above so below. It's like you will never truly know. You are a fool, but at the same time you have your subjective order and your subjective knowledge of what you think is true to your role in this place. So it's kind of the polars again. Either way, this is I've lately, I feel like, have become very tolerant and conditioned and numb to a lot of my locality of my normalcy and what I just consider standard. I feel like I have kind of separated myself from that state of curiosity, and I'm trying to reestablish a good creative curious side, while also maintaining a accustomed shaped side, a something where I have some sort of pre-programming for life, and for my thought process. Either way, love you, YouTube. Do your thing. I hope that everybody who watched this video up until this point, loves themselves, is themselves, bees themselves, all that shit.